Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for April 6, 2020. This meeting will be arranged remote participation with our Select Board members. This is Select Board Chair Marie Angelides. I'll be confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Richard Foster.
Present.
Mark Gold.
Present.
Tom Lakusha.
Here. Present.
Mark Strange. I know Mark's here. Mark? Okay. Mark, I don't think you're hearing us. Yeah, he's muted. All right, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simmons.
Present.
Paul Pasturgeon. Debbie House. I guess we're still having some trouble with the audio. And the anticipated speakers on the agenda, Fire Chief Dearborn.
Here.
And Mary Beth Bergeron.
Here.
Thank you. This open meeting of Long Meadow Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you will find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded, so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, Long Meadow Select Board is convening by telephone conference, video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town website, identifying how the public may join. For resident comments, after announcements, COVID-19 update, the town manager will forward public comments as follows. She will ask the members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. And once she has a list of all public commentators, she will call each by name and afford 3 minutes per comment. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the agenda posted on longmeadow.org. The public's encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We're now turning to the first agenda item, but before we do, let me permit to cover some ground rules for effective, clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold till your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. I would like to start by inviting our Emergency Management Director, Chief Dearborn, to give us an update on COVID-19. Chief?
Thank you, Marie. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, folks. This is Chief Dearborn. Thank you for the opportunity to update the board on the COVID-19 issue. According to Mass Department of Public Health, as of today, we have 17 confirmed cases in Long Meadow. This does not include the nursing home. The number of COVID-19 emergency medical services calls, the residential part of Long Meadow, has significantly reduced over the last 5 days. Also, the number of new cases being reported by Mass DPH has slowed. This is encouraging, although we are guarded in our optimism. As you've seen in the news, our nursing home and 2 of our elderly facilities have confirmed cases. We have been working diligently with them to implement a containment strategy. This is incredibly complex. Mass DPH is a regulatory authority for these 3 facilities. We requested additional assistance from Mass DPH, and they have assigned an epidemiologist to oversee this segment of our population and are providing assistance. The management teams from these 5 facilities have been fully engaged, along with our town manager, our health director, public health nurse, and myself. All the facilities have engaged in measures to contain further spread. I will caution, however, this is a dynamic and very complex issue. I want to thank our residents for their efforts in social distancing. I realize this is very challenging. We fully believe that this has slowed the community transmission. This is not a time to relax. We all need to stay engaged in social distancing, keep the spread slow and managed. I want to remind residents that if they're having symptoms of COVID-19, please call their primary care physician. Do not go to the emergency room or call 911 unless you are having shortness of breath or other severe symptoms. Last week I've been asked multiple times, when do you think this will end? My answer is simple, we do not know. Again, this is very complex. What is happening in Boston, New York may not be on the same timeline as what is happening in our region. We may be ahead of some areas and behind others. We just need to be patient, show social distance, and wait. Town government continues to function, although at a decreased level of service. I'm very happy that all public safety officers who have been out have been returned to duty. As of this morning, both police and fire are back to full staffing. I want to thank the public for their outpouring and support to both agencies. The cards, notes, and the food are very welcome and really help keep up morale during this extremely difficult time. Thank you, and I'll answer any specific questions.
Thank you, Chief. Mark Gold, do you have any questions for the Chief?
Yeah, Chief, do your numbers include Emerson Manor and as a not an older adult living location?
Yeah, so the numbers I gave you tonight, Mark, do include Lime Meadow and Emerson Manor. I'm sorry, not Emerson Manor, Genesis House. We do not have any cases at Emerson Manor that are being reported.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Richard Foster, do you have a question for the Chief?
No, not at this time.
Tom Lakusha?
No, I do not.
Mark Strange?
He's having issues. He had to step off.
Oh,
Technology issues. He's going to try again.
okay. All right. I'd like to thank you very much, Chief. I can't tell you how many residents have come up and told me how much they really respect the work of you and your team and how much confidence they have in the way the emergency is being managed. So thank you very much from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you, Maria. We have a great team, and they're doing a great job. So I really appreciate everybody's support, and we'll get through this.
Yeah, thank you. Lynn, would you like to add any update on the COVID-19 situation?
I will bring something up. Sorry, I was distracted by my report that I'm going to give just to make sure. I did want to acknowledge that we have received some requests regarding tax bills and a property tax bill and utility billing, and whether or not we would be waiving interest and maybe extending the timeline for those bills to be paid. And that is something that Paul and I are looking at. There was a change to municipal legislation last week that came late last week that the governor signed. We're currently reviewing that. DOR put some guidelines out on Friday. There's a lot of questions back and forth right now from all the municipalities across the state on how that's going to work. And we're working on all of that, and we hope to bring you back something at your second meeting in April.
Okay, thank you. Richard Foster, do you have a question for Lynn about the COVID-19?
No, nothing, right?
Mark Gold?
No, nothing at all.
Tom?
No.
Mark Strange, has he come back on? No,
I'm here, but I didn't hear the motion.
Did you have any questions for Lynn regarding our response on the COVID-19 virus?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, can I add something?
Oh, yes, Richard?
Yeah, I'd forgot. I appreciate what Lynn is doing on keeping the board updated, her transmittals and all of that. She's very well informed. I think that can be the reason that we're not asking any questions right now.
Well, thank you. I think she is doing a great job. I know this has not been easy, especially you've been on the job only less than 6 months. Okay, so we'll move on, and this might be a little challenging. Lynn, do you want to see if we can able to get any resident comments?
Sure. So we have a few people in the meeting that I don't recognize your numbers for, and you did not put a name with your phone number. So I have I'll just read out your phone number, and if you have a comment, if you could just state your name for us. So I have a 413-754-3450. Okay.
That's Richard Foster.
Okay. Thank you. I see Richard on here twice. Okay. I think that's Mary Beth's number. I have a 537-7314.
That's me, Lynn, Debbie.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. And then I have a 222-8166. Nobody's claiming that. And then we have.
Sorry, that's me. That was me. Mark Strange.
And then I have Doug Pass. Might not be saying your last name correctly, but I do see you here. If you did want to speak during resident comment, please let us know.
Okay, I'm all set. I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so why don't we move on to select board comments? Mark Gold,
None at
do
this
you have
time.
any select board comments?
No, none at this time.
Richard Foster,
Nothing, Marie.
Tom Lakusha,
Yes, I just, like last time, I've just seen so many people out walking around and biking with their families. And so, I think that people are keeping social distance. I think it's pretty easy to tell the people who live together and then the people who don't, because they keep a lot of distance. I just would ask all of our residents to be more understanding if people walk on your lawn to avoid being close to someone. Luckily, we have a lot of lawn, most of it's town land, but that people can walk on to avoid being close to each other. I think it is really important that we do keep that distance, and hopefully homeowners are not going to be uptight about that. But yeah, it's great to see everyone out and exercising. Of course, the people who are at greatest risk are the ones who are in poor health, and so I think it's good that we do get out and walk around, but respect the distances. And if you're going to be close to people, then you should be wearing a mask, I guess. So that's about it. Thank you.
Mark Strange. Okay. And I guess I'm going to make one comment, and that is I'm hearing so many wonderful things about everyone helping each other, but especially it's been a lot of volunteers coming forward for the food bank and volunteers for Meals on Wheels, been calling the Adult Center and St. Mary's with Food for the Soul. Mary Beth Bergeron, we can't thank you enough for the coordination that you and your group have done in providing meals on the weekends and really reaching out to new families, as well as hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food being donated to the pantry. I think we always see in a crisis that people come together and we see the best of ourselves. So thank you very much, everyone who's doing those volunteering at work. Now we'd like to move on to the town manager's report. Lynn?
So there are other things in town going on besides just COVID response. I'll brief you on a few of those. The LED streetlight installation is continuing. Arden Engineering is doing the installation and they're making good progress. They're working 4 10-hour days right now, Monday through Thursday. And the installation can be followed on the town's website. There's an interactive map on longmeadow.org. And if you go to the DPW section, there's a section on there for streetlights. If you have an issue after an LED fixture has been installed, please email the Department of Public Works at publicworks@longmeadow.org. And Arden will go back out and take a look to make sure everything is functioning properly. Every 2 weeks, Tango Lighting, who is the consultant that's been assisting the town in this project, they'll submit a rate change application to Eversource for adjustments to the utility billing. It's going to take about 2 to 3 billing cycles to see the changes reflected, but we will be seeing those, very quickly after. And then the order for the decorative fixture is in process. We don't have a shipping date at this moment, but it should be in the next couple weeks. The landfill capping project is in progress. Phase 1 is still being worked on. The cap was delivered and installation was beginning. I think installation started as early as this past Saturday, but it's weather permitting. But they have had some pretty good weather, so I'm pretty sure that started with the actual laying of the capping. Phase 2 was awarded to Saltmarsh Industries. It's the same contractor that we've had for Phase 1. Their work has also started. They've been clearing the vegetation. Then they're going to move on to grading, contouring, and shaping of the area once that vegetation is cleared. And Tom, I think that's something you questioned at the March 27th Select Board meeting. That is what you were seeing, is that Phase 2 clearing. The Longmeadow Police Department has been working on a new website and they've officially launched it. You can click on the link. There's a link listed in my report here, but you can also go to the longmeadow.org page and it will direct you there from the police department to the police department's page. Wolf Swamp field design is still progressing. The design specs are continuing. And once those documents are complete, the project will be put out to bid. And the DPW and adult center projects, the building projects, those are still ongoing right now. We've been closely following any changes that the governor's going to make. So far, right now, construction projects have been deemed essential, so work is continuing. The contractor at both sites, W.J. Montford, has been following all the safety measures that have been put in place. There are additional safety provisions that were put in place in response to COVID-19, and they are following those. This is something we're literally monitoring every single day. So I do expect at some point there may be changes, but as of right now, they are following social distancing. A lot of the work is being done in open air as the building is still primarily not enclosed. So that were put in place to keep monitoring what's happening there. And then the Bliss and Laurel Park Master Plan, we were hoping to do a public forum, but it's now looking like it'll be a virtual forum at this point. But the Conway School is still completing the master plan work for both parks this semester. Their start date has been pushed back a little bit, and we're adjusting the schedules as a result of that. All of the meetings will be done remotely, and once we have some dates set aside for that, I will let the public know, because we would definitely want as much public participation in those community meetings as possible. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Foster, do you have any questions for Lynn?
Nothing at this time, Marie.
Mark Old?
I'd just like to remind people that if they want to, in the bottom of their screen, they can click on the microphone and mute themselves. We're getting a lot of background noise, and then if you want to speak, you can either unmute yourself or just press down momentarily on the space bar, which unmutes you while you do that. So maybe we can cut down on those.
Tom?
Yeah, Lynn, in terms of the program who's going to be looking at Bliss and Laurel Park, now that park has some historic history in terms of folks, early designers who looked at it. Are they aware of those designs? Do you know if they're incorporating that into their plan?
Yes, there has been an exhaustive process by the volunteers that have helped pull that together, and they have combed through so many records and documents. They've done a tremendous amount of research, and they have pulled a huge packet of information together for the Conway students.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mark Strange?
No, nothing, Marie.
Thank you. Lynn, I think I forgot to mention to you, do we need to worry about that proclamation that's coming forward for this meeting, or can that roll to the next meeting?
No, that won't be until your May meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for the report. With everything else on your plate, you're still keeping the wheels on the bus. Everything's moving along, so thank you very much. Let's move on to old business. I'm looking for approval of the minutes for March 16th. Is there a motion?
I'll move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 16th.
I'll second
Is there a
that.
second?
I'll second that. Tom?
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Debbie?
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
I believe I have to abstain. I don't think I was at that meeting.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold, Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm looking for a motion for the special meeting on March 27th.
So
Move
moved.
we approve the minutes of the March 27th meeting.
That was Mark Gold. Is there a second?
Second by Foster.
Okay. Discussion? Roll call vote.
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move right on. Lynn, do you want to talk a little bit about the town election? I know we put that on hold and we did some changes.
So I've been communicating with town council. We've all been following a lot of the legislative changes to try to provide some relief to municipalities who have annual town meeting or town elections coming up this spring. Right now, all the legislative action has been for elections that are happening before May 30th or May 31st. And nothing has extended past that into June yet. So our two options right now, if we were going to look at changing a town election, would be a court order. Our town council has done that for other communities, so we could pursue that. Or their suggestion was to wait just a little bit longer. We do feel like municipal relief will be coming to allow us an easier process to change that town election if we need to. Right now, it's scheduled for June 16th.
Any questions for Lynn? Town elections? Richard Foster?
No.
Mark Gold?
Done.
Tom?
Yeah, thank you for looking into this. I think it's nice to have two options to move forward. So I don't know if we're going to take a vote on it. But thank you.
Mark Strange?
Nothing, Marie.
Okay. Yeah, Lynn, why don't we put that on the next agenda, and you can report to us even at your town meeting manager's report about what the updates on that are. We don't have any contested races, I don't believe, so we'll just keep a close eye on it as we go forward. The next thing is tax ceiling legislation discussion. Lynn, is there anything you wanted to talk about that?
Sure. So we've been looking at this and trying to make some decisions on time frame on what makes the most sense here and what the process should be. So my understanding is town meeting needs to vote if the town is going to put forward special legislation, which could happen at this June town meeting, and then there could be requests to put this on a general election or as a ballot question. I've seen it done a couple ways. You could do the ballot question before you pursue special legislation, or you could do it at the request of the legislature before they adopt your special act. I've seen it done both ways. Paul Pasturzik and I were speaking about this later today. And one of the suggestions that Paul made, which I think makes a lot of sense, is if we put the language forward, it could stipulate that it would not be adopted until a vote of the entire body of the electorate.
That the, could you clarify that the actual legislation or the filing the legislation would not go forward?
That we could file the legislation with a vote at town meeting, but then it would not be passed unless the voters of Long Meadow adopted it.
And there was also a discussion about doing it in the fall rather than in this town meeting.
Yes, that is possible. So things are changing very quickly, and as of right now, we will have town meeting in June. We could put something on the warrant for putting special legislation forward, and then needing to have a special election in the fall if it makes its way through the legislature. The hesitation you're sensing from me is that we could wait on this until the fall and put this forward at fall town meeting. My concern is just how long it would take from that point forward. But there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and timeframes are really unclear as well.
Paul, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think Lynn summarized it fairly well.
Okay.
Can I ask, this is Mark Gold, can I ask a
All right, but I was going to go through everyone. Richard Foster, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
You have to choose
Mark Gold.
display capture.
And then I thought that when the task force talked about and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she's the legislative aide to Brian Ash, indicated that what we ought to be doing is getting a vote at a town meeting, then taking that to the legislature for a special,
am I streaming it?
Legislation.
Yeah, I'm the one streaming
that then is adopted through a town-wide referendum. So it's really town meeting first, and then town-wide referendum to adopt whatever we get from the legislature. So for me, I think we ought to start. We got to start that process, and since it takes a legislative cycle to get anything back. Our next town election is in June. Somehow we've got to get something soon so we can get it to the legislature for the next session. In theory, we could get something back for next June of 2021.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tom, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, the warrant article in our packet, was this a revised one from the one I saw previously?
Right. It is display.
Was there any change to that from last?
I think it's the same material.
Okay.
Because I think there are two options.
I guess that
display capture,
at this reading, it seemed to make more sense to me. And I could see, like Mark Gold, that forward on this might be a good idea at this point in time, because it is going to take a while to get through the legislature. The only thing I would add to it is I still would like to see a time limit, and I don't know if that's possible. In the original statement to say that, we would like to, pursue this legislation to allow the levy not to be capped. And maybe we could say for a 5-year period. That way, we can reassess where things are at. It would put us in good shape if we do have a lot of financial difficulty that arises in the next year or two or 3. But it would also not make it permanent. It would kind of limit it to a 5-year period, and I feel more comfortable with that.
Strange?
Yeah, then it should show you.
So can I just, I just wanted to clarify the timeline on this. So if we put, would we put that article to the June town meeting for a vote? Is that right?
Well, maybe we can
for the town meeting, put it as a warrant article that we will be filing legislation.
Okay. But then it needs to be
during that, we can play around with it. Maybe we can
via ballot,
together.
Which wouldn't be until the following following May.
Yeah, yeah,
June.
definitely. I think it definitely took
Legislature
a few-
actually
a few
comes
tries to
back
get
with
the hang of
it.
it on my
They
computer,
might
too.
not get it through that session. It could take 2 years
So
for them,
I'll reach
but
out
it
to you guys
cannot
for,
be
to set up another time to do this
instituted
in
without
May
a
if
ballot
that's something
vote.
to play around with
Is
it.
that correct, Lynn?
Okay.
Okay. Sure, no
Marie, it
problem.
depends what we put down for legislation, but the current
Yep,
legislation is it's Long Meadow specific, but more broadly, that says a community may adopt this, and therefore we'd have to take it to a referendum in order for the community to adopt the proposal that the legislation put in. This wouldn't be Long Meadow can do this alone. It's it's kind of like the meals tax or anything else. Towns may adopt this, but it takes a referendum of the town. So Mark, I hope that answers your question, that we're looking for legislation that needs to be then adopted by the town.
Yeah, that does answer my question.
Okay. Marie, if I could just say something in response to Tom Lacusa, the concern, Tom, is that if we get this legislation and we run to a tax rate of, let's say it's $25.50, in 3 years from now, if you put a 3-year limit on it, that means we got to all of a sudden now cut back below $25 when the time period runs out. And so, it could be far worse having to make big cuts than just having to freeze if we never went to it to begin with. So I think the concept of, running it for a certain period of time and then letting it expire, needs to be thought out fairly carefully, unless we expect, property taxes are going to be taking off or something like that, and we'll start falling below the $25 tax rate.
I sent out a proposed legislation. There are different ways that it can be done and with different limits on it. And so we can find ways other than a time limit, but I think that's down the road. Maybe we should be really looking at what we're thinking of going forward with. Because as the attorney said, there's different ways we can do this rather than just get rid of the cap completely. And Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Mark. I have a lot of confidence in the town that if in 5 years after this was accepted and put into action, that if it was going to look like, services were going to be changed dramatically and it was going to affect our schools and so forth, that the town was going to extend this. But, having an unlimited thing, we could find a situation where so expensive in terms of taxes that a majority of people who now, are able to move into town would not be able to move into town in 10 or 15, 20 years from now. It could become too exclusive just because of the tax bills.
Mark, may I recommend the next step is, I know the tax ceiling task force did not look at both models, and I was wondering if it's possible for you to put together a meeting where they look at both models and vote on which way they're going to recommend the town goes.
Okay, no problem.
Lynn, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Paul?
No, I'm all set.
Richard?
No.
Mark? Old?
All set.
Nope.
Mark Strange? You fine?
Nope.
And Tom?
No.
Okay, so everyone look at the two models. We can discuss it further, and we'll see what the tax ceiling task force looks at and decides on the two models. All right, we can move on to trash and recycling. Do you want to give us an update, Lynn?
Sure. So as most of you know, last week we opened the yard waste, the leaf dump yard waste. It's been pretty successful. People have been taking good use of it and have been respecting social distancing and following the rules that go along with it. There was quite a significant pile there that DPW periodically knocks down and makes more room so people can take more advantage of it. So that's been well received. And I don't know if any of you are still getting more requests on trash amnesty. It is something we're monitoring, but again, don't feel like that would be something I would support at this point.
Okay, a quick question on the recycle center. Do you have opening hours on that yet?
We do not yet. We've talked about that, and we're still working out the logistics on how that would work. We've mulled over different ideas, some of which would include not allowing the bulky household items to be dropped off, because a lot of times that requires assistance when it's unloaded, and that would not be keeping with the social distancing and safety of staff right now. So no, we don't have a plan in place for that yet, but it is something we're continuing to monitor.
And are there any hours now for the recycle center?
No.
Richard, do you have any questions on the trash update?
No.
Mark Gold?
None.
Tom?
Well, I just would like to tell Lynn that I really appreciate that she's got that center open for people to drop off lawn, yard wastes and everything. I was walking this weekend on Tina Lane and found people who had trimmed their hedges and just sort of dropped it on the edge of the road. So it's really nice that people have the appropriate place to put it. They should know that putting it on the side of the road is not the appropriate place, but maybe this will just encourage them to make the right move. And then if people, because the stickers for the dump come out yearly, right? So there are people who would need to get them as of after January 1st, is that right?
Yes, yep, you can purchase those online.
Great. So
Okay, thank you. Mark Strange?
Nothing, Marie.
And the blue bags can be purchased at grocery stores? Can they purchase still
Yes.
at DPW?
You can purchase them at Armada's, Rockies in East Longmeadow, and Big Y. And for those that are unable to go to any of those stores, you can contact the DPW, and they will mail them to you. There is postage that applies, or you can make arrangements. I know they have in certain cases made arrangements for a pickup location at the DPW if someone didn't want to mail them.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the DPW change order. Mary Beth, thank you for waiting. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Sure, certainly, thank you. What you have in front of you is PCO number 051. It's for the DPW job site. It is frankly not an awful lot different than what you've looked at before. Most recently for the adult center, where unsuitable soils were discovered after excavation for foundations/piers. And in essence, that is what happened over at the DPW. I do want to emphasize that this has absolutely nothing to do with any ACM that was found in the location, but rather soil conditions that were unsuitable as far as stability was concerned for installing the piers. And so therefore, work had to be done in order to stabilize that area, and this PCO was generated as a result of those two pier locations where the soil needed to be stabilized. You will notice, however, that the original PCO did come in from Montford for significantly more than what the PCO is at now. It came in originally at $61,079, and we are now at $33,665. Weston and Sampson did an admirable job in really looking closely at the original specs and challenging some of the line items that were on this original request for additional funds for those piers. And so we building committee looked at this has been actually around for a while now. We looked at it closely, and we did last week meet and recommending unanimously approval by the select board of PCO number 51 in the amount of $33,615.
Okay, thank you. Richard, do you have any questions for Mary Beth?
No, I don't have any questions, and it has no reflection on what our staff are doing. They're doing a great job. I guess I'm taken back by this thing. It kind of irritates me that we have to spend this much time tearing apart a simple change order and slashing it by almost 50%. because apparently contractors are inflating their costs coming to us. And that has nothing to do with our staff. It's just kind of irritates me that the contractor is behaving in this fashion. Mary Beth, I understand you've been part of the negotiations on this, and you're right. I've read all the materials. Weston Sampson did a good job. But it still comes to why did they even submit such a, I'm going to say ridiculous. Maybe it's not ridiculous in their mind, but it is in my mind. I mean, there was actual double charges for stuff that was on site. There was
right. The only response I can have, Richard, is that this is not an uncommon occurrence with municipal construction. Bidders come in originally, they have very sharp pencils. They bid the job, they get it with a very tight number, and then as the job progresses, they make it up by change orders. And so you have to have people like Weston and Sampson's and Colliers that will really look at the numbers and the scope of work closely to make sure that at least you're having as tight a number as you possibly can get. And this is not an uncommon occurrence with municipal construction.
Well, yeah, okay, but that may be true. I also
doesn't make you feel better.
Contracting also, and this is kind of exorbitant as far as change orders when you whack them by 50%. I think it's a matter of fact, it's unprecedented in my history of when we would have something that absurdly submitted, and for us to have to waste our engineering time to whittle this thing down when it obviously was just filled with materials and hoping that we would get it. And it leaves me with the fact that I don't even, the problem is, as you well know, you're doing a change order after the fact. That really is the problem, because the work's already completed by the time this change order is in process. So, and I do understand that puts us in a very, very unfair position, because it puts the contractor in a very favorable position because the work is already completed. Okay, I just wanted to get my comments out on that. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Mark Gold?
Yeah, I have two questions for Mary Beth. One is that the document I have shows that it's $33,615 for the subcontractor, but then there's markup on the subcontractor of $25.24, and then additional bonding cost of $542 for $36,732. Is that the actual amount of $36,732? And B, where is this?
Yes, it's the $36,732.73. Contractually, Montford is entitled to a markup on the subcontractors, and that was something that was agreed on the original contract, and always is agreed on the original contract, because the contractor themselves is organizing the subcontractors and getting the work to take place in a timely fashion. So they are entitled to that money, and that's going back a couple of years when the original contract was executed.
That's fine. I mean, but you had said, I just wanted to make sure it was the $36,732 and not the $33,615. The other question I had was, and where is this being paid out of? Is it in the contingency?
It is. There is allocation to the funds in the contingency, and is not put into contingency in any.
But you had said, I just wanted to make sure it was the $36,732 and not the $33,615. The other question I had was, and where is this being paid out of? Is it in the contingency?
Okay. There is allocation to the funds in the contingency, and is not put into contingency in any.
Mary Beth, thank you very much. I think we can see that.
I just wanted to make sure it was the $36,732 and not the $33,615. The other question I had was, where is this being paid out of? Is it in the contingency?
Back, and we appreciate the work.
There is contingency, and is not put into contingency in any.
Mary Beth, thank you very much. Let's move on to.
I just wanted to make sure it was the $36,732 and not the $33,615.
Is there a motion to approve the change order?
I'll move to Mark Gold. I'll move to accept change order PCO 051 for the DPW project in the amount of $33,700 and change.
Richard Foster will second.
That needs to be corrected.
Oh, it does?
Sorry, that needs to be corrected. The full amount of the PCO is $36,732.73.
Mark, restate that motion?
Yeah, it's the amount of $36,732.73.
Okay, and is that seconded still by you, Richard? Richard?
That's affirmative.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, Debbie?
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks again, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Marie.
We're going to go on to the DOR liabilities in excess of appropriation. Paul, you want to explain that?
Sure. This is a procedural matter that we need to go through if we are going to overexpend certain line items. The biggest one is the fire overtime. They're doing certain types of shifts with their personnel to avoid interaction with other personnel, so on and so forth. There are other costs being assumed for additional nurses on staff. We set aside some money should the food bank need, or should our food pantry need additional funds, to the tune of, we're estimating that we could be in excess of appropriations in certain line items of about $175,000. So this would be sent to the director of the Bureau of Accounts for approval, procedurally. And the reality is we should not be expending unless we get that approval from her, which again, I will assume is fairly much a rubber stamp more than anything. These amounts can always be amended going into the future if they're found to be short. And then at some point in time, we'll be looking for the funds to make up these overages as they come due. Potentially, the Department of Revenue within the new legislation is allowing for a 2-year, I believe it's a 2-year amortization, so we could actually pay these off into FY21 and FY22 with certain funding at that point in time. But again, it's more of a procedural issue more than anything. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions on the specific costs. Most of the information came from the different department heads with their estimates that, were also conservative estimates.
All right, thank you, Paul. Richard, do you have any questions or comments?
No, Marie.
Mark Gold?
Do we have to vote to approve to send this letter?
I'm going to say it needs to be approved by the chief executive officer, which I believe is the board of selectmen. So we're actually looking for approval for Marie to sign.
Tom?
No questions.
Mark Strange?
I just had what I think is a related question, Marie and Paul. So do we have any idea how much money, if any money, we're going to get from the stimulus package? Wasn't there money allocated to the states and then trickled down to the municipalities?
At this point in time, we don't. Not only, will there be stimulus money, but there will also be money to pay these types of over expenditures also through FEMA that will filter down through MEMA. The stimulus package is very complicated. There's a couple of different ways that will be filtering through us, whether we lay off employees or we keep 90% of employees, so on and so forth. But at this point in time, I have absolutely no estimate for you, Mark.
All right, is there a motion to approve the sending of the letter?
I'll move, Mark Gold, I'll move we approve the sending of the letter requesting $175,000 in excess expenditures over appropriations for fiscal year 2020.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, Tom.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
All right, thank you. And Lynn, do you want to talk to us about the act revoking acceptance of the general law establishing a board of election commissioners?
Yes. So for those of you that I'll just give you a quick refresher here, as much as I know on my own here. A couple town meetings ago, there was a warrant article to adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 51, Section 17, to it would essentially relieve the Board of Registrars from their election duties and instead put an election commission in place of it. That passed, and then after that, somehow after that, someone figured out that that is not probably what the intent was by doing this, and that really you just wanted to add a fourth member to the Board of Registrars, which is not what the law allows for. I might have the section wrong, but it's Chapter 51. And that has been working its way through it made its way through the Senate, and now it's in the House committees. Unfortunately, they're not making any progress on anything unless it's COVID-19 related. So the reason this is now is because April 1st is the deadline in a lot of these election commission and Board of Registrar statutes, where you have to populate your boards and committees by April 1st. So April 1st has now come and gone. Our bill is still pending. I spoke with the attorney for the Elections Commission on Wednesday to ask her what the best course of action would be, because we're not structured to take on an election commission at this point. And the intent is that we wouldn't, because we've submitted legislation to revoke that adoption. So her recommendation was to have the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board take a formal vote to delay the creation of the Election Commission due to our pending legislation and because of the emergency pandemic that's happening right now. And as soon as that legislation is passed, we will be fine with our current Board of Registrars. So that's why this is in front of you today. It's one, to provide you an update, and two, to ask that you take a formal vote to delay creation of the Election Commission due to that pending legislation.
Richard, any questions or comments for Lynn?
None.
Mark Gold?
None.
Tom?
None.
Mark Strange?
No, Marie.
Okay, well, I'm glad there is a solution because we're running up against it. So we're looking for a motion. Do you want you to word that for whoever's going to move it? Lynn?
Sure. I'm looking for a motion to delay the creation of the Election Commission due to the pending legislation and the emergency pandemic that we're experiencing.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, and again, thank you, Lynn, for finding a way forward on this issue that's been very confusing in town. Now, any other things, anything else that anyone wants to discuss? That's the end of our agenda before we move into executive session. Richard Foster, anything else you need to be discussed?
Nothing, Marie.
Mark Gold?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question. Lynn, at the beginning of the meeting, you indicated that at the next meeting, you'll have a recommendation for us about property tax bills and extensions and that kind of thing. Just as a clarification, because I actually did get at least one email from somebody about that. Is there an issue with delaying within the fiscal year and or versus beyond the fiscal year, or a delay is going to be a delay and we'll do whatever we need to do?
What I've seen so far, and I think hopefully Paul will jump in if I'm not correct, I think it's only for this current fiscal year. And then anything beyond that would be something different, but any delay right now would be just for this current fiscal year.
No, but the delay would be within the fiscal year? In other words,
The delay would be for 30 days. It would be till June 1st.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Tom, any further questions or comments before we close the meeting to executive session?
Well, yeah, I did speak with Rebecca Townsend this week, and we talked about the town meeting and the fact that if COVID-19 is in a contagious period, that if we did have any kind of a meeting, we'd need to have it very short. And so, in a future agenda, maybe we want to talk about moving any non-essential warrant articles to the fall town meeting. And as a board, we would discuss what is essential and non-essential, and I'm sure we get a lot of help from Paul Pasterzik on that. But so it's something to consider, because keeping a brief meeting might be the best move for this year. So.
Okay, thank you. Mark Strange?
No, nothing, Marie. Thank you.
Okay, did I miss anyone? No? Okay, I'm looking for Tom, you have raised your hand?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is part of my task, sorry.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy in regards to anticipated regulatory litigation relative to GGP 261 upgrade projects in Columbia Gas lateral meter station. Discussion of which open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town and chair so declares, not to reconvene in open session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Who seconded that, Marie?
Mark Strange.
Okay, thank you. Marie,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. April 6th, we'll have another meeting. Is it going to be in 2 weeks, Lynn? Or do
April 21st, because this is technically April 20th is a holiday.
Okay. So it'll be April 21st. Stay safe. What is it? Social distance together. That's our logo. And also wear a mask when you go out now. So thank you very much. We'll if you have any questions or issues, please contact the select board. Or if you see a neighbor in trouble, contact the COA and let them know. All right. Thank you very much. Good night.